welcome to the Incomplete Guide to Film podcast, where we're learning filmmaking together. I'm your host, Alex Pinnell, and today we're going to be talking about whether or not the Oscars and other award shows in general are broken. So, there's been a lot of debate and controversy and upset recently surrounding especially the Oscars, because the Oscars have been accused of being racist, because every debate in this country has to be a racial thing, it seems. So, the major complaint that everyone's having against the Academy is that their award winners are not diverse enough, and that they're discriminating against other people, and that they're not winning because they choose other people over them that don't deserve it. Just giving you guys the highlights in case you haven't been really into the debate, because honestly I haven't been following it too closely, but I brushed up on it in preparation for this episode. And honestly, I think the whole thing's kind of dumb, because here's the thing. Do a lower number of, Black, Hispanic, Asian, other races, other than white, I guess, do they win less Oscars overall? Yes. But here's the thing. Those races are minorities in this country, in America. And since they're minorities, there's less people living here that are of those races. And since there are less people, there are less actors who are in Hollywood of those races. The disparity in Oscar wins can easily be explained as a population issue. Hollywood is predominantly white. Look at anybody who's in Hollywood. You come up with the top 50 names off of your list, and most of them are going to be white. It's just that's how it is. It's not necessarily a diversity issue. It's just the more white people win Oscars because there's more white people in Hollywood. It's not because of discrimination necessarily. They've replaced judges and everything so far, and promised to be more diverse. So, if there were actual prejudiced judges there, then yeah, get rid of them. Sure. But it sounds like they're going to fix their diversity issue, quote unquote, the same way that most other people fix their diversity issue, in the workplace. And the armed forces especially are like this, and certain colleges and things as well, where they have a certain quota every year that they've decided, or they've been told that they need to reach. We have to have X amount of, Black people at this college, Asian people at this college, whatever it is. And They fill that quota. Are they going to handle it the same way where X amount of, people of other races have to win Oscars? Because if that's the case, then you're breaking the Oscars further. Because award shows like that should be based on merit alone. You should only have to be good to win an Oscar. If you do well, you should win an Oscar. If you're the best supporting actor of the year, you should win the best supporting actor role. The award for the role. You should win that award because you were the best, not because you were in a movie that everybody at the Oscars liked, or because you're black, or because of whatever. And I'm just afraid that it'll be more of a quota thing where they'll be fixing the problem because more black people, Asian people, Hispanic people will be winning Oscars, but they'll be breaking the meaning behind the award by having certain quotas of people who can win. I am totally fine with them saying, okay, we had some issues, we had some people who were prejudiced, and we got rid of them, and now we're a little more on the level, and we'll give everybody a fair shot, because that's what it should be. Every person, every film should get a fair shot. Which is another thing about the Oscars that's kind of broken. Every film doesn't get a fair shot. Fury Road is up for Best Picture this year, which is very interesting because usually those films don't get on there. I'm not as surprised about The Martian, because The Martian is directed by Ridley Scott, who's already won Academy Awards with like Gladiator and stuff like that. And it's a very, even though it's a space story, he goes to space and he's living on Mars, it's a drama. And dramas with big names in it are Oscar bait. They're the ones that are made with the goal of winning Oscars. And that's the issue about all this. Oscars are won by movies in one genre. That's where it's really broken. Because, well, here's a good example. The only horror film to win an Academy Award, well, the only one to win Best Picture, is Silence of the Lambs. Now, I'm going to tell you, a lot of horror movies don't deserve Oscars. There's a reason that they don't win. But there are a lot of films that are in the sci-fi, fantasy, horror genres that are snubbed because of the genre that they're in, for a drama that is subpar in comparison. This is such a widespread problem that the Saturn Awards were created, and they only work with those three genres because the Oscars wouldn't cater to them. And if you want to judge just dramas, that's totally fine. But you shouldn't give the illusion of being on the level and giving every film a fair shot. Because the sci-fi films that have won, Gravity cleaned up at the Oscars. But it was another of these drama, artsy sci-fi films like Ex Machina and Beneath the Skin, others that it's sci-fi in name only. Because it has sci-fi elements, they're in space, it's an alien, it's robots, but it's still the art house movie. And if art house movies are your thing, then fine. So I really don't count Gravity or even The Martian as, a sci-fi movie winning the, Academy Award or being nominated. Because it's still a drama. It's still, and I don't even think that movies that I love, like the Avengers movies, I don't think that they should win like Best Picture and Best Actor and all that. But they shouldn't be just overlooked because, oh yeah, that's a comic book movie, so yeah, screw it. No. Every film should be given a fair shake when it comes to awards and things. Every actor should get a fair shake. Every film should get a fair shake. Everyone has an equal opportunity. Everyone has equal potential. That's the operative phrase there. That's the key phrase, is potential. Everyone should have the same chance. The pursuit of happiness. We don't guarantee happiness. We don't guarantee an award. We don't guarantee $1 million. Like I was talking about on Monday. Not everybody gets to be a millionaire. Not everybody gets to win an Oscar. But you win an Oscar because you work your tail off and you do well at what you do. That's what it's supposed to be. I think that, Hollywood's kind of fallen away from that. Because, the sci-fi fantasy genres, the only actual movies from any of those genres, the ones that weren't dramas with that, backdrop, that I can even remember getting anything besides special effects or sound design or editing, the small technical awards, is The Lord of the Rings. And that was just because it was so much better than anything else that was being put out. The Return of the King got Best Song, which is really odd, that a fantasy movie would get the best song of the year. Are the Oscars broken? Yes. Are they racist? Perhaps, maybe. But I'm leaning more towards no. So, what can we do to change it? Because a lot of people are talking about, how the award shows are broken and all that. How can we change it? Frankly, I'm not quite sure. The only thing that I can say is we give everybody a fair shot. We give everybody, every film, a fair shot, and we judge on merit alone. Because that's how it started out. It was, hey, you did this better than everybody else this year, so you get an award. The Academy's kind of broken and isn't really in touch with its audience, with society as a whole. And it's broken because I think Hollywood's kind of broken. Hollywood has become a system of businesses trying to make top dollar, which I understand because these movies cost money. So they're trying to get the most out of their investment. And when you're talking, $200 million for a small movie, that's quite an investment. So they do a lot of things that the public doesn't want, and it shows in the box office numbers, and they continue to do it. You know, how many remakes have we seen in the last 5-10 years? It's ridiculous how many remakes we've seen. And now we're going to see remakes of remakes, because they're taking another attempt at Nightmare on Elm Street, because the 2010 one didn't do so well. I liked it, but it didn't do so well. So they're going to do it again. You know, it's been 6 years since that movie came out. Well, it came out in October of 2010, so it's only been 5 years. And they're going to do a reboot of the Saw franchise, one that not only ended with an open-ended, ready for a sequel, according to the IMDb, synopsis, but also the first film came out in 2004, 12 years ago. And we've already seen, 2 different versions of Spider-Man, and now there's another one. They just keep recycling and rehashing everything, and eventually they're going to learn that that's not what the audience wants. And that's why I advocate staying outside the system, because, there's less money out on the outside, but, going to Hollywood to make film is helping to feed the problem. I wouldn't call you a sellout if you go to Hollywood. I understand. I totally understand people who decide, I'm going to go out to Hollywood because there's money in Hollywood and I got to eat. I totally understand that. I'm not going to, but I understand. I think I was finishing up here, but I just keep on talking. Help me, I'm talking and I can't shut up. So, to finish again, the Oscars are broken because the system is broken. And though I don't think we need to burn the thing to the ground, we do need to see some change in that whole culture as a whole. We need to see a little more back to basics, where it's about artistry and it's about good workmanship, not an agenda. Good day and good filmmaking. Hey guys, thanks for listening. I'd like to encourage you to leave a like and a comment on YouTube or on SoundCloud. And if you like me and you want to hear more, I post every Monday and Wednesday. And if you subscribe to me or follow me on SoundCloud, you can get updates every time they come out. And if you have a question that you'd like me to answer on air, or just want to say something directly to me, you can tweet me at Pixel Magic Film. All right, stay classy.